Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we discuss the issues in our communities and we try to build them as best as we possibly can. Tonight, we have a very special show. We have Mr. Jaylen Eason as our guest tonight. Jaylen is a versatile entrepreneur and consultant with a diverse background in personal training, gym management, and business consulting. After transitioning to an electrician role during COVID 19, he launched his consulting career by teaching entrepreneurs and 9 to 5 workers how to grow startups to $20,000 in monthly revenue. As his experience grew, Jaylen shifted focus towards acquiring cash flowing businesses, demonstrating how this approach leads to faster financial freedom and maximized growth potential. Jaylen is a business partnership with Dealcraft, a venture that focuses on acquiring businesses nationwide. In addition to acquisitions, Dealcraft provides consulting services to help 9 to 5 workers buy businesses and achieve financial freedom. Beyond his consulting work, Jaylen owns Golden Broom Cleaning Company LLC, a minority owned cleaning company based in Portland, Oregon, specializing in residential, property management, and construction cleaning projects. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you Mr. Jaylen Eason.
Hey, what's going on, Charles?
Hello, sir. How are you?
Good, man. I'm good. I appreciate that very kind introduction there, man. Make me blush a little bit.
Well, I definitely appreciate you for being on the show. Is there anything you'd like to add to your bio?
I mean, no, I think that pretty much says it all.
Well, so I guess before we get going and we get started, I want to ask this question here because for a young man yourself, you do a whole bunch of things.
Mhm.
So tell us, what is it that really brought you to the thinking and doing of being a business consultant, doing the management that you do, as well as the personal training?
Man, it comes from just not wanting to work for anybody else, man.
Hmm.
Like maybe there's a lot of people out there that can relate, but you reach a point where maybe you have a family, maybe you don't, but you're grinding away day to day. You're selling 8 hours at a time to a company, from my perspective, that wasn't giving me what I needed back.
Hmm.
And so it's like, if I'm already going to work for the next 40 years, why not just do it for myself? And then the trade off potential of saying, if I work, let's say 16 hours a day for the next 5 years, can I get it to the point where I never have to work again?
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, because now I can more than feel and understand what you're saying because I can say I myself was always doing the things that I do now, but it was like pretty small because I wasn't able to expand. But when I decided that I got sick of working for our federal government,
Mhm.
I struck out on my own to do what I'm doing now. So it's full. So all the hours and all the time that I have is devoted to what I do. So I definitely understand.
Yeah, and you probably feel it. It's like it's not even work at this point. It's you and your passion that's driving you forward. And it's
Right.
almost like my wife gets mad at me because almost like I can't stop because there's so much to do. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
just so much change you want to create. So yeah, that's how it works, man.
So what inspired you to pursue a career in business consulting?
Honestly, I wasn't even looking at it. It was just circumstance and being open to whatever I was getting into.
Hmm.
So I'll tell you a little story. Is that all right?
Okay. Yes, most definitely. Oh, we
Okay.
don't have to worry about time.
Excellent. All right, I don't want to be too long-winded then. Um, Pretty much when I was, take it back, personal training, being in the gym with the whole goal of helping people get comfortable in their bodies because I was uncomfortable, and seeing how I became comfortable in myself and grew in my confidence as a young man, I wanted to do that for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
Okay. But COVID happens, and out of nowhere, all gyms shut down. So that means my business shut down. I was managing a gym up in Vancouver, and I had 5 trainers on staff that shut down. And my wife was looking at me like, okay, how do we eat now? Because we don't, when COVID started, no one knew how long it was going to last. It was like, yo, is this just life now? You know?
Mhm.
So that's when I got into electrical, because that was the only people who were still going out to work. My older brother is an HVAC technician, and he was still had hours. He still had a job. So I'm like, okay, I got to do something manual now, something that the family will always eat. So after 3 years of that, no, 2 years of that, I was like, man, I I am so bored. I'm burnt out. My body hurts. My joints hurt. My ears, bro. I promise I lost like 10% of the ear hearing in my right ear just from like drilling metal beams all day. If y'all aren't aware of electrical work, commercial work, it's
Uh-huh.
loud.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
So you're paying with your body. And I arrived at the conclusion where it's like, all right, I either pay with my body to feed my family or I pay with my mind. Either way, I got to pay something.
Mhm.
Okay. But at least my brain, I can grow that. I can multiply that. So I found a course that was, and it was just a random online course on how to build a remote cleaning company. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to go for it. I'm just going to buy it. I'm just going to take a risk because, and my whole justification was, and I had to convince my wife of this, if I get into something like this, that's a remote cleaning company, all of it's on my shoulders. I have the power, but I also control how much I get done. Right. And when you have kids and fowls to feed and a wife and people who are relying on you, and the only thing between your goal and where you're at currently is effort and knowledge, you're gonna do whatever it takes to get effort and knowledge, like, or to put up effort and get knowledge. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Right.
it was just a matter of seeking out that opportunity where I could control how fast I grew based on how much effort I put in and how much I push my mind. And I got into that, opened up the doors for my cleaning company that I have now. 8 weeks later, it blew up, and my coach was like, "Yo, what are you doing?" And we talked about it, and he was like, "You got to join the team." So he invited me on after 8 weeks to be a business consultant to teach people how to, or all across the United States, how to build these businesses. And that's when my career in business consulting took off.
Wow. So so I take it then from just listening to that. So there was no actual experience as a consultant at all. It's just something that you learned on the go.
I mean, not directly as a consultant, no. It was pretty much as a personal trainer. I knew I needed to help people get from point A to point B.
Hmm.
So I know I have to simplify a process, make it really, really easy, and then deal with the psychology of a person who's going from a place they've never been to a place that they're trying to go and all the mental barriers. I had experience with that. So it wasn't an issue of getting somebody results. It was an issue of the knowledge. And once you get the knowledge, it's like, now I just have to help them get there.
Oh wow.
Yes, sir.
So can you describe a particularly challenging consulting project you worked on and how you overcame the obstacles?
Oh man, I'm on one right now. I worked at I won't name drop the company, or maybe I should, it doesn't matter. But the company I worked at for a year, helping build these businesses from scratch, um, I departed with them in June, just recently passed last June, and I ended up getting into another gated community, kind of like a pay your way kind of thing, and
Mhm.
found the team that I'm on right now, which is the Dealcraft team. And as of right now, after just being in it for a year, I had to learn how to build a full system from scratch that teaches people like 9 to 5ers how to go from nothing all the way to how to buy a business cash flowing 120K a year. And that challenge right there brought back all my demons, Charles.
Wow.
Like, because you got to keep in mind, like, I don't know if people understand this. It's like when you achieve something large, people pat you on the back and they're like, good job. And they see you as a person you've become. And let me know if you experience this. And the back of your mind, there's still those doubts, insecurities, internal struggles as you go to the next project. until you acknowledge what you've done, but you still got to battle those inner demons to achieve the next big project, and then you grow into the new person, and then the next big project, and you go into the new person. You see what I'm saying?
Hmm. Well, I think when it came down to that part, I guess the way I looked at it, and it may be similar, but it was just always for me with any accomplishment that I made, I never actually took the time to really celebrate myself. And so because I didn't celebrate myself, like hindsight's 2020. But when I go back and I think about that, and when I got to a point where I started thinking about that, it was like I need to start celebrating myself,
Mhm.
you know. And so, but that was a while though, because I mean, there were like several accomplishments. But I was sitting there saying, and just speaking, whenever I would talk to folks, it's like I haven't accomplished anything. And so it was like people would say to me, like, well, didn't you just do this? Or you're doing this and you're doing that, and you're dibbling over here, and you're making all these little inroads. So why you say you're not doing anything? So I had to sit back and I had to think about that myself, because that is something that's, is mind blowing, but it's the truth. Because I think sometimes when you're like when you're results driven, sometimes the things that really matter, when you get them done, you don't really have time because you're not really looking, because you're still saying that there's always got to be more, and you get to be insatiable.
Yeah.
That's how I am.
Let's go, dude. Same way. Yeah, I love that. So, well, tell me, how did you start celebrating yourself when you took the time to acknowledge it?
Well, look, I would take the time to smell the roses. Smell the roses, go sit down and have some champagne, laugh, and talk about the things that have just what's just happened, and what's going to be next. And so I think these are the things that, when our audience, when they take the time and they listen to a lot of things like this, these are the things that are most important for them. Is because for those that don't know how, as you were saying, when they're trying to get to that next place, that's what we want to make sure we try to get them there. And so it's like how you're just talking about your story is something that I'm sure that there are an enormous amount of people that's going to be that's watching this show that's actually saying, well, I had that same problem, you
I
know.
love it.
And so this is where that learning part comes in, because I'm sure that there's a lot that you'll be able to talk about and explain to them and have them understand. Hey, that process is what it's supposed to be. Because I mean, as we get into this, of course, I'm going to ask you what are some of those steps or some of those things, because I really want people to take from this. What's the good thing that they can do, and why is it that they want to do them? Because if they don't know what it is that they want to do, then a lot of them will never get going.
Okay, I love that. That's huge. That's huge because yeah, it does feel like when I've heard podcasts in the past, it would be like you get just the top layer of what's going on, but you
Right.
don't really have the full depth to create a full like an action plan, like the actionable steps.
Mhm.
So that, hey, the more we can dig into that, I'm happy to ask away.
Yes,
I'm
sir.
here for it.
I appreciate that. So how do you stay updated with the latest trends and developments in the business consulting industry?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in all honesty, I don't.
Mm,
I don't. I just focus purely on how do I get results for my clients,
okay.
right? Because ultimately, it all comes down to the same thing, no matter what product you're selling or whenever you're in like a service based industry where you're trying to help somebody get from point A to point B. The questions that the client is always going to ask is, how can you get me there faster than everybody else? How can you get me there easier than everybody else? How can you get me there with less risk than everybody else? And Alex Ramosi talks about this. Those three things, like if you focus purely on your product and getting results, and those three things, faster, easier, less risk, you
Mhm,
don't even have to worry about competition because it doesn't exist.
mhm,
You know what I'm saying? Like, because I mean, the crazy thing about the last 10 years with the online consulting space and the internet is that there's a product for everything. There's a guru for everything. You know what I'm saying? Like legit everything. So it's like, man, you could try to compete with them, or in all honesty, what I would do if I was someone out there thinking to myself, I have a skill set, I can help this type of person get this result, but I don't know how to do it. What I would do is I would look into that space and start finding people who are doing it, like in the business buying space, right? You have like the Carl Allens, you have a lot of really big names, but you can kind of watch what they're doing and then say, okay, I can compete with them on that, even though they have a larger budget, even though they have more reach, even though they have a bigger audience, more money, probably more experience, or I can try to potentially partner with them and just focus on what I'm doing.
Well, I understand that part, but as we was just going through this part earlier, um, can you tell our audience what are some of the things that you did? When you were going into the consulting arena, what are some of the things that you put together step by step by step that got you to the point where you are right now?
I love it. I love it. Okay. All right. Super practical. Step one is learn a skill.
Mhm,
That's step one because it's a question of, excuse me, once again, what are you trying to do? Whether
mhm,
you're trying to be a consultant or whatever you're trying to do, you got to learn the skill enough to get yourself results.
mhm,
And then, secondly, learn the skill to get someone else results.
mhm,
And I say it really does start with you because even when I was personal training, because I'd gone through fitness, lost weight, gained muscle, changed my life, I had so much conviction that this was the right thing for people. And conviction is what really sways and sells and motivates people to take change. So if you believe it full heartedly because it's changed your life, you're going to find out of the 7 billion people out there, you're going to talk to somebody differently in the way that you talk that's going to help them change. So learn the skill, use it yourself. And like I said, the second piece, start helping someone else for free or for a testimonial or just to see what kind of impact you can have on them. That's 2 easy steps I think everybody could do if they had the time for it.
mhm.
Okay. Step after that would be find a mentorship or find some place where you can utilize your skills. Now, it doesn't have to be paid, even though I went the paid route and I joined with like online apprenticeships and stuff like that to be around a community of people. It could be as simple as, and this is what people are missing, man. This is really what people are missing. This could be as simple as joining Facebook groups.
Mm,
As silly as that sounds, if you wanted to be a CPA like yourself, or I'm sorry, you weren't necessarily a CPA, but if you wanted to get into that arena of like helping people with finance, and then you joined like CPA groups on Facebook, and you just start giving out value and talking to people,
mhm,
because you've done steps 1 and 2, which is master the skill and potentially help somebody else do it, you now actually have something to talk about that can help other people.
mhm.
And that begins to grow your brand. You start to get a pulse of what's going on in that demographic, and they'll tell you what the problems are, and you can begin to create solutions to them. Does that make sense?
Yes. So tell us, what are the key qualities of an effective manager? Because you also did something within management. Um, so gym management. What are some of the effective qualities of a manager?
Effective qualities. That's a great question as well. My style is a lot more laid back because I don't want to micromanage people. So
Okay.
I see it as like what do your employees want, or whoever is you're managing? What do they actually want?
Hmm.
Right. Some trainers wanted to grow their business up to the point where they can be making 70, 80K a year. Cool. That's a specific type of person. Some
Hmm.
trainers just wanted to make an impact and do really big weight loss challenges. That's a different type of person. Some people were more so just into aesthetics and bodybuilding. That's a different type of person. But whatever the goal of the trainer was, that's all I'm going to use to motivate them. That's it. So it's what kind of impact do you want to make? And then how do I help you make that impact? And then from there, I'm simply going to get out of the way.
Hmm.
because my goal is never to force somebody. I can never tell somebody their greatness.
Mm-hmm.
They already know their greatness, or they're going to discover their greatness as they go.
Mm-hmm.
All I want to do as a manager is unlock their greatness.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, and try to keep them like accountable, motivated, and then just be kind of a sounding board as they go through those levels of like we said earlier, like insecurities or internal challenges or whatever is blocking them from getting the way they want to go.
So, how do you communicate with your people?
In what way?
When it comes to having them run the establishment or have them do tasks that you assign them, how do you communicate with them?
Just like this, whether it's over like a Zoom call or in person. But it's, I said, I'm super relaxed about a lot of things, quite honestly.
Well, let me ask it this way. I
Go
mean,
ahead.
like, do you guys have like lots of group meetings? Do you have like just chats? Do you just walk by and just do talking to people in general? How exactly does that work?
Got you. Yep. Yeah, I do a lot of one-on-ones.
Okay.
I do. Yep. One-on-ones are big, just because it allows people to really get deeper into what's going on with them. A lot of people won't really go into like personal stuff in group settings.
Hmm.
So one-on-ones have been the way that I go. Um, I would just set up literally throughout the week, set up my schedule of who I need to talk to, when I need to talk to them,
Hmm.
cross-reference our calendars, and go from there. And then within that gym itself, it's like, okay, who can I connect them to that will keep them accountable while we're not meeting? So it's a mix of like one-on-ones and small group accountability.
So, do you find does the one-on-ones work better for both you and your employees, or is there another method? Like, does the group work a whole lot better? Which one works best?
One-on-ones. I like one-on-ones for getting into where people are at to help them get to the next level. But when you get a group, it really helps to gamify the system.
Hmm.
You know what I was talking about? So it could be like competitions of, if the whole goal is to get X amount of revenue in the gym, all right, what do they want? What do they really want? Do they want like 3 days off? Do they want a bonus? What do they want? And then how do I gamify this so that they're all competing, but it's like camaraderie versus competition?
Right. Oh, I've seen that. That's cool because I think that goes the outside the box creative thinking. Where you get people to use a whole lot more of this in order to get things accomplished.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do you handle conflict within a team?
Between teammates,
If it's between teammates or if it's you and one of your subordinates, how do you handle the conflict?
I got to figure out what's going on, man.
Hmm.
I do, because conflict usually arises due to miscommunication. Like
Hmm.
from what I can see, it depends. Somebody might have a different vision of it, but for me, it's like it's usually someone doesn't understand something. So
Yep.
it's either I don't, I didn't properly communicate what needs to be done, okay, or when I talk to them, I'll ask them, okay, this was supposed to be done, or what's the issue here? They might come at me and tell me, you know, let me think of an example. Um, Sometimes I have trainers arguing over um, time slots out on the floor or something like that. Either way, we got to figure out what the issue is, communicate. If they understand what was supposed to go on, if they don't understand what was going on, then that's my fault in the issue. I didn't properly communicate the guidelines, the structure.
Hmm.
And if they do understand, then it's like, okay, it's an attitude adjustment at that point. What
Hmm.
action did you take that caused a conflict? Because you can't, I don't think you can change the person themselves when it comes to conflict, like what triggers them. Like I'm not a shrink, man. I'm not gonna try to be. But can you at least change the action that
Right.
they took that triggered the person that caused the butting of heads?
Mhm.
If you can change the action, the conflict is usually fine.
Okay. So, can you describe a time when you had to make a difficult management decision?
Man, dude, have you ever fired somebody, Charles?
No, I have not.
it's it's the worst, man. It's terrible. I'm not a fan. But sometimes And this is just the way I see it. When people can't get out of their own way,
Hmm.
sometimes it doesn't matter what you say to them. Life just has to teach them that like that just can't exist here.
Hmm.
And that's the way it is. It's kind of like my daughter sometimes. Like
Hmm.
if I tell her, hey man, don't touch that, it's hot, and she doesn't want to listen, life is gonna teach her, yo, that was hot. So it's the same thing. It's like there are times when, whether it's trainers or VAs in my cleaning business, or even cleaners, man, I've had to let go of cleaners
Hmm.
because they fall beneath the standard. And it sucks because you try to pump them up and be their cheerleader and kind of be in their corner and say, okay, look, it's you and me versus this situation. We're on the same team. How can I support you so that you can get what you want out of this, which is income?
Hmm.
And then if they can't overcome themselves or take the proper actions, it's like, I can't let the culture of the company fall because you can't take the action, because the integrity is necessary. That's who we are. That's our name. So you got to make the decision. And that's terrible every time, man.
Oh, I can just imagine that. So, and speaking of your cleaning business, tell us, what is the cleaning business and what is it exactly that you do?
Yeah, of course. So we are a residential, commercial, and construction cleanup company out here in Portland, Oregon. So we do all different types of cleaning, from just regular housekeeping maintenance for families, all the way up to there's an 11-unit apartment complex coming up that we're gonna go clean that just got built brand new, get it ready for people to come in.
Wow, congratulations.
So,
Congratulations. That's really big. Um so what led you to become a personal trainer?
oh man, a life of unhealthy decisions, man. No, bro, it's kind of funny. Like my parents, God bless them, amazing people. I think that parents don't understand sometimes when you reward kids with food, they associate that feeling,
Mhm.
that release, like that, the reward signals in your brain from eating. They associate that with just feeling good. And so when you're a kid and things are tough, what do you do after school if you had a hard day? You go eat and you feel better. And
That
that
is
to
true.
be right. I
Mhm.
mean, not I won't say nothing wrong with it. It's not the best way to do it if you want to live a long time and be healthy, but it is what it is. Um, but it was a lot of that, man. A lot of that and just being uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Just being uncomfortable. At an age where they're all, body positivity and stuff like that, and that's great. But at the same time, if you're uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable.
Mhm.
I was tired of being uncomfortable, man.
Oh wow. So, how do you tailor fitness programs to meet the individual needs of your clients?
Oh, it's been a while. I haven't trained since 2018. But no, it's 20. Yeah, personally in the field before I got into managing gyms, I was like 2018. No, it just came down to, I would have, um, when it comes to the nutrition, I would have an educational space for them to teach them the basics,
Mhm.
because it ultimately just came down to really simple principles, which
Mhm.
is burn more calories than you consume.
Mhm.
But each person does that differently.
Mhm.
So in their life, how can I get them to do it? Does it mean they got to walk more? Does that just mean not eating after a certain time? Does that mean allowing cheat meals twice a week? Like, what does it take for that one person to be comfortable uh, getting on this diet? And then after working with them for a while, it kind of just reveals itself.
Okay. Can you share a success story of a client who achieved their fitness goals with your help?
Again, I don't know if I want to name drop, but
You don't have to name drop.
I know, I'm always like, man, because my clients were so shy. It feels, yeah, it's one of those things. But anyway, I had a client, an amazing dude, um, divorcee in his 40s at the time, and he had an issue with alcohol, and that's okay because it happens. So what we did, which is really funny, people don't think about this when it comes to fitness, man. This is really weird. But what we did was we were like, okay, how many drinks or do you need a week? Like, what do you need to do to be consistent with this? And he's like, okay, if I can drink 3 times a week, I can be consistent. And I was like, all right. So we worked into his calories, how much it was, and he was able to have 3 drinks a night, or 3 drinks a week, once a night, and he still dropped over 30 pounds over the course of the 3 months training with us because we just worked in what he needed. And I was proud of my dude. And I believe he's kept it off. I think I have his Instagram. He still looks pretty good.
Okay. Well, so how do you, when it comes to the personal training, do you use any of the techniques that you use for your clients when you're doing the business consulting or when you're doing the gym management? Do you use any of those techniques, with your clients that you personal train or that you have personal train?
Do I use the same business consulting techniques that I use when I?
Yeah. Do you use those same techniques with your clients for personal training?
Okay, yeah, because I did training first and then consulting. Um, I don't call it a technique at all, man, but radical bluntness is what I call it. Because you would have to have that when you were back when I was personal training to bring people to reality of their situation and accountability. People pay for accountability, honestly, with a trainer because the knowledge is out there. Let us be real. But they're paying for accountability. That only comes with radical honesty. And that's the same thing you have to do in business consulting. If the numbers aren't right, if they're not taking the right steps, if something's not being done, if you are incredibly blunt with somebody,
Mhm,
they'll respect you more, even though they don't like you in that minute. But it's the best way to create change.
mhm.
So I don't know if I call that a technique, but it's my secret.
Okay. So what skills do you believe are essential for a successful business consultant?
Ooh, I love that. Like I just said, radical honesty is going to be number one by far.
Mhm,
Another one then would be the willingness to learn and learn quickly.
mhm,
Because the reality of it is, and this is scary, you don't know everything.
mhm,
You really don't. Like I've been in the cleaning game for a minute. I feel very comfortable where I'm at, but at the same time, there'd be situations where I'm consulting in a different state and I don't know all the rules and whatnot. Someone asked me a question and it's like, yo, I got to go do a couple hours of research to figure this out, and I got to grind, and I got to find the answer. A lot
mhm,
of people aren't comfortable with that pressure of saying I got to figure it out. They think
mhm,
they have to know it all. You don't have to know it all to start consulting,
mhm.
but you got to be willing to learn.
So how do you motivate your team to achieve their goals?
In which respect? In the cleaning?
Well, I mean, with you being, in management and managing a group of people, how do you motivate them to achieve their goals?
I mean, honestly, I just lay down the runway. Like people are self motivated, Charles. As far as I can tell, everybody wants something.
Yeah.
Everyone.
But I think, I'll just say, I think when it comes to, I think you're right. Everybody does want something, but not everybody's self motivated. I mean, because I've come across an enormous amount of people from the professional standpoint or ethics standards or wherever you want to be,
Mhm.
and there are an enormous amount of people in this cluster that are definitely not motivated. They're definitely not motivated. They're there because they got a job and they just want to get paid.
Mhm.
When it comes to doing the work, they do as little as possible to get that done. And because we know that there are those kind of people, then it's like the ones that are motivated are always picking up the slack.
Mhm.
So that for one, now that causes conflict.
That does.
And so that's why, that question, is to really to see exactly, have you experienced that, which it seems like you haven't.
Mhm.
But you've only run across motivated people.
I don't hire unmotivated people.
Okay.
That's I mean that's not to sound like because in the space that I'm in, whether it's cleaning or consulting, whatever it might be,
Hmm.
like if we don't click on the interview, I straight up don't hire them.
Hmm.
So that's kind of been my journey with it.
Okay. um what are the most common fitness misconceptions you encounter?
Oh man, don't eat sugar.
Mhm.
don't get me wrong. I won't go down the rabbit hole of the food system and what's in our food and how it's produced and stuff like that, because that's a whole thing in and of itself.
Mhm.
But I will say at the end of a day, a calorie is a calorie. Like,
Mhm.
straight up. People still don't understand that, where they say you can't have sugar, you gotta go keto, you gotta intermittent fast, you gotta do this and that and this and that. No,
Mhm.
man. Again, I helped a man in his 40s whose metabolism was not super high, who didn't have the most testosterone,
Mhm.
who was drinking alcohol 3 days a week, lose over 30 pounds.
Mhm.
It literally comes down to calories that you digest versus activity and how many calories your body takes to maintain.
So tell us a little bit about this partnership you've got with Dealcraft. Tell us what is that and what's that about?
Of course, man. I'd love to. Dealcraft, I joined a real estate group, and it's a little tight knit group. And essentially, I was in there just talking about business buying, and I got DM'd from a guy, from one of my business partners, Shane. And he was asking me a couple questions, and we hopped on a call and hit it off. And what we found is that um, Shane came from being a teacher. He was in education for 15 years. And then my background, of course, was personal training and whatnot, but entrepreneurship all in the same. I didn't want to teaching people how to build business from scratch because it was too much work. It took too long to get running, and then they had to continue their 9 to 5 while at the same time trying to build this business. So we just started talking about business buying, and it completely made sense. So Dealcraft is essentially it's our baby, me, Shane, and Marley, by the way, um, and it really is just trying to teach people how to get freedom faster. I'm talking like within 6 to 8 months, go from working your 9 to 5 to buying a business, doing over 120K a year.
Yeah, so like this concept that Dealcraft has, I mean, how is this how is this presented to the public to get more people to come into what you guys are doing under your tent and growing it?
Well, we started with the free Zoom, and we were
Mhm.
just doing a Zoom once a week to teach people how to underwrite businesses and how to assess them. And that's all underwriting is for anybody who doesn't know. It's figuring out if it's worth it and what the profit margins are and all that stuff to see if it's worth pursuing. So we had that free Zoom going on Thursdays, and then I just last week got enough requests to launch a community, and so now we have the community going so they can jump in, network, and what the community does is that it allows people um, the ability who might not be in the buying position, might not have the right credit score, might not have the right income or savings. It allows them to play minor roles like
Mhm.
wholesaling and headhunting, or getting really good at underwriting, or getting really good at one thing instead of coming to the table with everything.
Mhm.
And then they can build a reputation in the community. And then from there, they can get into the position to be able to purchase a business for themselves and get the freedom they want.
So, is this a new company that you guys just established, like within the last couple of years, or have they been running for a while?
Oh, last couple months.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a new venture.
Oh wow, that's a good thing. So do you guys go with out into the community to try to get a lot of the folk in the community to come onto your team?
Not yet, but soon. Like our whole vision is to buy multifamily. Okay. So that just means like larger apartment complexes. And then within those apartment complexes, um, we wanted to mix in like low income housing and everything else, and not just like section it off to one section of the building, but actually mix it in. And then from there, hold community workshops on weekends, or hold community workshops like schedule like school once a term, um, where they can learn these skills on like how to buy businesses, how to position yourself properly, how to build your credit profile, and continue to buy multifamily and make ecosystems in each multifamily unit with opportunity. And we're actually starting that in Atlanta.
Oh wow. So how's the kickoff going?
It's good. We just closed on our first. SaaS company, which is software as a service. Closed on that last week. I can't divulge details yet. Appreciate you. But with the cash flow from that business, it's just going to position us to start getting into the multifamily and then start building these little ecosystems where we're bringing everybody in and educating them one building at a time.
So, what's the mission and what's the main goal?
That's the mission, man. It's to build sustainable communities. It's to empower people, and it's to make sure that they have the resources. Like that. That's it. And if we can do it, once again, if we could do it by creating small ecosystems where people feel comfortable, they feel like they're at home, um, they feel capable, and that it's not out of reach, then that's going to be the goal. Just replicate that again and again and again and again until we can make bigger impact.
Okay. And so, how do you approach developing a strategy for a new client?
Man, that's a very that question can go a lot of different places. If I had to boil it down and simplify it, it comes down to figuring out what their goals are going to be, and then we got to find the bottlenecks. So typically it'll just be like an intro session where I'll do my research on them through an intake form, and then I'll ask several questions to get a feel for where they're at. And once I identify that bottleneck, it's all about attacking weaknesses. What's the easiest lever that I can pull that will have the most impact and take the least amount of time to get them results?
Hmm. What strategies do you use to ensure effective communications within your team?
Private channels. I'm a
Okay.
big fan of private channels. Like we talked over the one-on-ones, but it's private channels and check-ins, man. It sounds weird, but when's the last time your boss texted you and was like, how are you doing? Like not how's the company, how are you doing?
Right. Right.
That's small. But when you do stuff like that to people, it shows them that you actually care.
Hmm.
And then if they say not great or something, I'll call them on the spot. When's the last time your boss just called you on the spot? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like you just show people you care. Like, to me, that's the most effective. When you do that, they won't. You're a confidant. You know what I'm saying? It just changes things.
You know, tell me, just to add a little bit onto that. Like when it comes to, we know, if you've ever worked for a large company, then you pretty much know how the structure is of that company. So when it comes to small businesses or small companies, whichever we want to call them, we know that, we're hoping that the climate is always going to change and be a little bit different, because if you're a little bit more personal, it seems like you can get more work, more quality work from your employees. Do you agree with that?
I do, man. The best piece about that I love is that your employees are so used to being in a role,
Hmm.
and when they get hired, you give them their little roll sheet of tasks and whatnot, and they say yes, I can do those tasks. You hire them. But honestly, when you pull that back and you say, okay, what is little Johnny good at? Like, what is this dude good? What makes him excited? What can he work on for 10 hours and not stop? And then you put him in that position, bro. You don't have to manage people. Like, it's good to go.
So, how do you stay motivated and maintain your own fitness routine?
Man, my kids, I say daddy's getting chubby. You know what I'm saying? Kids, bro.
That's your motivation.
It is, man. It is. But in all reality, man, I want to, bro. I want to be Superman. I got three little girls and a little boy.
Okay.
Ages range from 9, which is my older daughter, all the way down to 2, which is my son, my youngest.
Hmm.
Man, I want to be Superman for my kids always.
Hmm.
If there's one thing I could do, it'd be teaching them that to do all the hard stuff, but to make the hard stuff look easy because you got it like that. Like that's what I want to teach them. And so it's the same thing with fitness. It's like, yo, if I can't tell them maybe when they get into high school or college or become a collegiate athlete or whatever they do in life, I can't really tell them you just got to work harder or find a way, which honestly is the answer to a lot of problems, unless I give them the example of what it looks like. So that's how I treat my fitness routine. I got to wake up. If I got to wake up at 5, I got to do it. If I got to go at 9 o'clock after they go to bed, I got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Because I guess then that means that your end goal, as you say, is to be Superman. You've got to do everything to maintain and stay Superman.
I'm gonna try my best. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's that I can say that just so far into this wonderful interview, I can see that you're all about family, which I think is a really good thing. And I think a lot of times a lot of people lose track of that. How do you keep family to the forefront for you all the time?
Oh man, that's another easy question. If I didn't, my wife would have left me, Charles. That's real, man. That's
Uh,
real. But she holds me down.
mhm.
She does because I get lost in the pursuit of greatness. I think a lot of men do. Maybe did you feel the same way?
Well, I tell you, I'm still at that point now that for me it's just all about making it happen.
It
And
is.
so, until I have to have a reality check, every now and then, and sometimes I get reality checks along the way. But, those are the things that keep me humble and keep me grounded so that I know that regardless of the case, it don't care how big this show get. It matters not how many clients I get when it comes to accounting, taxes, or consulting, that you're always human and the people you deal with are human. And so once you treat people the way you want to be treated, everything else works from that point. Now we know that that don't work with everybody, but I think the majority of the people would actually feel that way because if you treat people nice, then they're going to always want to continue to come back, learn more, get more, and be a part of more.
Mm-hmm. Dude, give away the secrets, give them all free value, 100%.
You know, I mean, like my thing is this. I mean, it's not all about, for me, I don't care to say that I want to be the richest man in the world
Hmm.
because I don't. But what I will tell you is that as I grow and develop and connect all of these underserved communities, which are my target,
Hmm.
once that actually shows where we can see that in real numbers, then I'm very happy because I've accomplished what I needed to accomplish, but also I've just gave something back to the world that they're going to always remember.
Yeah. And if that's it, right, that I could tell from the passion, that's your calling, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, sir.
It is.
It's, dude. Yep. When you have that kind of ambition and that kind of North Star goal, again, it's hard not to work 20 hours a day. And then
Exactly right.
it is. But yeah, my wife keeps me grounded to stop me from doing those things because it's the truth of it. Like if I didn't have the wife and kids, I wouldn't be working this hard anyway. I'd probably still be an electrician or just go back into managing gyms.
Mhm.
You know.
And so yeah, but see that's again, see those are the things so that when I think for those qualities, especially the ones that you have that makes you a leader, the leader that you are, I'm sure that anytime you walk into a place and people can feel the good vibe. When there's a good vibe and there's a good energy, everybody is like always rolling on that high. And so
Mhm.
as we can roll on that high, then everything else is good. We don't need to worry about all that other stuff because as long as we're doing what we have to do, everything else takes care of itself.
Dude, I love that. I feel like that's a nugget right there, and I'll go into it just a little bit more. That is so important to create a high and a culture of that you guys can continue to roll on because between point A of where you are and point B of where you're trying to go, um, there's always like a time delay that people misunderstand. So whenever you're trying to achieve something great, like the mission that you have and the mission that I'm trying to create these small communities, there's going to be a time delay where you learn the actions that you have to take to get to that level, and you start to take them consistently, but nothing on the exterior world, nothing outside you is changing, even though you're changing internally.
Exactly.
And it becomes really difficult to maintain and stay consistent with that internal change when the world around you isn't changing. And that's when most people quit.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so, and I can tell you for me, that's the purpose. I have a small team. My team will not let me do that because if they feel like my fire is like going down a little bit or it's going down, what's going on? What's wrong?
Yep.
You know, and so like sometimes it's like it's unbeknownst, but these are the things that keep things fueled and keep everything going because without them there would be no show.
Yeah. And that wouldn't have happened unless you created that culture.
Right.
Like it all starts with you, man. And I love that.
Yeah. So, can you share an example of a successful business transformation you facilitated?
Man, there's a lot. I did a lot of startups, man. I did a lot of startups. So each of them are like my little baby transformation. For those who don't know, startups fail often. They usually don't even, I don't even know the statistic. You'll have to Google it sometime of startups who actually make revenue, not revenue, but actually make net profit in their first year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, even.
It's hard.
It's
It's
hard.
hard.
It's hard.
But the thing is, the motivator is if that's your passion and that's what you desire to do, then you keep pushing.
Mhm.
Because I can say unequivocally, I'm going to tell this story again because I've told it once before. But when I left my job with federal government, I left that job because for one, that was stunting my growth is the way I felt about it. And so for me, a lot of people asked me if I was crazy because, I'm being paid a little bit more than $100,000 a year and, I'm doing this, that, and the other. And it's like, hey, everybody talk about, oh, you got all the bubbles, you got all this going on. I'm like, no, we ain't going down that street because that ain't the case. But I left and I actually funded my own business.
Let's go.
I funded my own business. I didn't get no loan. And so I was able from that time up to now, which it'll be 6 years in November. I have been able to maintain up to that point and knowing what was going to be the best things that I could bring in and the things that I could not. And so even at this point, I can say that things are just looking like they're looking like what they're supposed to look like. I mean, again, I'm not like saying that I'm one of these high revenue earners. I'm not making three and $400,000 a year. No, I'm not. My thing is that as long as I've been maintaining within the goals and the things that I wanted to do, I've fallen within that. Sometimes things get a little rough. You have that little rough patch, but you still find a way to patch the holes and you keep it moving because you're not going to let any water come through that dam.
That's right. I
You're
like
not
that.
going to let that happen. And so that's where you have to be that quick thinker on your feet where, hey, you got to make sure that you got a plan for how those things work. A lot of people just don't know how to do that yet.
Hmm. That's really interesting. That's fantastic. I love that. Are you a big planner?
Of course I am. I'm always planning. I mean, like today, I'm still writing down and thinking about things to do and to move and how to change this and what not to change. I do that every day. And so when I talk to the people on my team, it's kind of like when we sit down, we talk about these things, we discuss them but we discuss them in a different way. And when I say each individual is different because everybody brings something different to the table. And so as that happens, then it makes my life that much easier because I know Yet, hey, once that's all said and done, I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna start implementing this next month, and this is how we're gonna do it.
Mhm.
And so once we start moving in that way, that's the way it is. you know so as we move, we get some sparks, and the sparks turn into flames, and the flame turn into a big old fire, and before you know it, it's like, hey, it's like with them fires y'all have in Oregon and California. It's big. So why it's big, it's like, hey, keep burning.
That's it.
Keep burning. So as it's burning, it's doing a good thing. So just because that's going good at this point, that don't mean that fire is going to stay there all the time. So you
Yep.
got to plan for the next thing to keep that fuel going.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Man, I do. I love the way your brain works. I gotta speak for myself. I am so jealous of your ability to plan it out. I'll tell you this is how bad I am. My planning is like this. It's usually I'll come up with 10, 15, 20 good ideas, write them down all up on the sheet, and then I usually do it at the end of the day. I'll go to bed, wake up the next morning, and half the ideas I'm like, I don't even know what I was thinking last night. I'm gonna throw that out. That's gotta go. That's gotta go. But I'll usually get one or two nuggets out of there that I can bring to our team meeting. And then once I bring it up, then everybody just starts spitballing. And that's how we can kind of figure out a direction. Dude, I love that. Yeah.
Well, I can tell you, I got like maybe 100 portfolios, 100 portfolios, and each and every last one of them, I done started and got more than halfway through each of those things, but I have not completed each of those because each one is different. Each one is different. And so the difference and everything else goes up on my big board.
That's how you keep track. I like it. Yep. Yep.
Goes up on my big board. The big board is where everything is. So that's why everybody's not allowed in my office. So how do you manage performance and provide feedback to your team members?
I go pretty old school. We just keep basic KPIs, key performance indicators.
Mhm.
So all that means, so let's take like Golden Broom is ran by my employee Sergio while I'm in business meetings and doing stuff like that.
Mhm.
Sergio, based on his goals and what he wants to do,
Mhm.
um, like for instance, he wanted to make a certain amount on his bonus this month. So I'm like, cool, let's break that down. What does that look like? How much outreach do you need to do? How much revenue do we need to bring in? Like what does this look like realistically for you? And then we create KPIs, which might be like, okay, if Sergio is going to focus on construction and property managers, how many does he need to reach out to in order to get one new contract in?
Mhm.
Right. And what does his closing percentage look like? And we reverse engineer it. So it becomes, all right, Sergio, you need to call, if this is your goal and that's what you want, you need to call this many per day. Do that, you're going to reach your goal.
Do you use a CRM system?
I do. For Golden Broom, we use Booking Koala. That's just like a basic home service based software.
Mhm.
But for all my consulting stuff, I always use Go High Level.
Mhm. Oh, okay. There's a lot of quality in those, but I think once well, you'll have the opportunity, I think, to look and maybe get a better feel, because I think some of those can do so many different things. So it's like, if there's one that adds more quality and value to what your system has, but has the potential of going down the line that can add a whole lot more. You kind of like want to look at the system as to how it can be cost efficient, but also very valuable at the same time. And so we're about to implement a CRM system where basically everything was just done on just on our own analytics and so forth. But we're gonna add one, and the one when we add ours, um, believe me, it's one that's going to be it's going to be intertwined more so within everything that's on this entertainment side. That is from my podcast to my blog and to my books. It's going to be all intertwined into that, to where it's basically doing more. It'll be doing more. lead generations, and more direct contacts than we've ever imagined that we could do before. Because like sometimes a lot of this, is organic that we're doing right now,
Mm.
and from the organic perspective, it's done a lot. But if you're going to use a CRM system, you want to use one that's really going to be very efficient for you, and not where you buying one, let's say for this year, and you're buying a new one 3 to 5 years later. So it's like looking at what that thing is going to offer you. Just something to think about as you're going forward.
I like that. I'll have to talk later on which one you ended up getting and what that looks like.
Definitely. What advice do you have for someone just starting their fitness journey?
Find something that you enjoy doing. That's very simple, but that's key. For me, it was just weightlifting.
Hmm.
I liked lifting weights because like every young dude, you want to look good with your shirt off.
Hmm.
But I could do that and stay consistent with that 4 days a week until
Hmm.
the day I die because it's something I just enjoy.
Hmm.
But yo, you ask me to run? No, sir. Not me. Not this guy.
Not even a bike or a treadmill.
Oh, bro, I was probably the laziest trainer you ever gonna find. I don't enjoy it, but I can control my diet and exercise all day. So that was the easier part for me.
So, how do you incorporate nutrition advice into your training programs?
Have you heard of IIFYM?
No.
It's another way for saying if it fits your macros. It was probably be big. It was probably big back when I was really into it, like 2018 ish. But essentially, all calories could be, I guess you could use the word divided into macronutrients, proteins, fats, and carbs, and then you give people a certain number of proteins, fats, and carbs, and if they stay at that number, then they'll be in their calorie range.
Mhm.
And that was the basis of what we did.
Okay. So then there was nothing that was superimposed, something that was so super fantastical that you had to keep it in a bottle and say you got to get this bottle. I'm sorry to say it like that, but
No, that's good marketing, 100%.
oh, no, I'm serious. But I mean, I see that and it makes me laugh when they say, "Oh, this is so super fantastical. You've got to get this. Everything you want's in this, and this is your fitness life." Like,
Dude,
really?
yep, yep. That's the dude. That's the kind. When I was looking competition earlier in the marketplace, that's the kind of jokers I'm talking about. But it sells though, because people would rather buy snake oil than just do the work.
Wow,
You know what I'm
that is
saying?
interesting. That's interesting, and I know that there's some truth to that because a lot of times, I'm not gonna call people lazy, but people just want you to hand it to them to say, "Hey, I got this. What you trying to do?" And so, as you're saying all of this and say, "Hey, well, I've created everything that you need right here. All you need to do is buy this book. This book is $35. Buy this book, and it's all right here for you." I'm
Mhm.
like, "Okay, yeah, I think I want this book. Okay, here you go."
Dude. I got you, Charles. Here's my thought process on this, and this is for anybody who's building something. This is amazing. Essentially, if you look at, let's use nutrition for an example. If you look at how to get somebody from point A to point B, which is like lose 10 pounds in this example, it might be something like, what do they have to do? Okay, they have to eat better. That means they have to go to the store and shop. That means they also need to do their cardio. If you take a list of all the things that people have to get done to achieve the goal you're promising them, and
Mhm,
then you find 10 or 15 different ways for them to do it, I'll give you an example. If it's like eat better by going to the store and shopping, cool. That means that you could provide a service maybe where you're on the phone and you're going with them to the store on a FaceTime or something to help them stay accountable, or
mhm,
you send them with a buddy, or you give them a grocery list where they can only buy these items, or you like if you find several different ways to do one thing and
mhm,
then you package it like Jaylen's super awesome system, point A to point B, and I
mhm,
just put my label on it and brand it,
mhm.
that's pretty much all I'm selling. Like that's my offer. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, see, I'm gonna say this to say that to say this. Um, with those things, I mean, there could be a lot of good value in those things, but like, what about when when things don't go the way it should go because sometimes somebody gets derailed. So, in
Mm.
other words, with this super fantastical system, it should include for the what ifs, right?
To the
Like
best of your
maybe
ability.
three of the what ifs.
I like that. I like
Three.
that. So what if?
So they're not missing.
True. Very true.
And so if they're not missing, and if they fall off and they're able to get back on track, the system works.
I like that. A little fail safe. And if not, worst comes to worst, man, you got to have those semi uncomfortable come to Jesus meetings where it's
Well,
like,
that's with a lot of us because I mean, a lot of people are just not going to be that totally disciplined to move all
oh,
the way down that line. So it's like when they come to see you, Mr. Eason, it's like, hey, I need your help. I need you to do this. Can you help me?
mm-hmm,
And you say, yes, I can. And tell me how you're gonna help me. And you tell me how you're gonna help me, right?
mm-hmm.
So when you tell me how you're gonna help me, and then you include this wonderful module that I take when I'm not there, then it makes me feel that much more safer and that much more easier.
Reduce risk. Hey, remember what I said earlier about the consulting services? Right? Make it easier, reduce risk, make it faster, and you have a winning product. That's reducing risk 100%, or
Yes,
perceived risk.
yes,
Because if they don't execute, they don't execute. And that happens sometimes.
yes, it does. And that's why they came to you in the beginning.
That's it.
What are your favorite exercises or workouts to recommend to your clients?
Hmm. That's a great question. I like the basics. I like the basics. So I don't necessarily say exercise, but
Hmm.
it was like a variant. So I'll give you an example. If I said a squat variant, but I used to
Hmm.
train my mom and she had to have, she still needs to have her knees replaced.
Hmm.
She can't necessarily do a squat variant. So what gives her the same kind of like hip flexion and um, knee flexion? What kind of gives her the exact same levers that need to move, but doesn't necessarily put her in the position that she can't get into? Does a leg press do it? Does like a hack squat wouldn't work, of course, too much pressure on her knees. But what can give her the exact same variant that she can get done? And then you give them like a basic foundation, but you tailor each exercise to their body. Does that make sense?
Hmm. So I mean, so you don't like just come up with like a program for cardio, one for working out with free weights, one for working out with resistance. You don't do any of that. You don't come up with these different variable ways of training for your people.
No, they all exist. But if you break it down super simply, if a person is eating under their calorie goal, is getting their X number of steps, whether that be somewhere between 6 and 12,000 usually, and is exercising with resistance or with weights at least 3 to 5 times a week, dude, that's again, all I got to do is follow the basics, package it, Jalen's program,
Mhm.
and that's that.
Okay, I hear you. And so I'm gonna make sure that I'm looking to find all those products that you're gonna be putting out with your brand on it because I think once you actually start putting out the brands of your product, that is if it's like starting in January of 25, you know once you start getting that brand out and you pushing that brand, you know people are gonna see it. They're gonna want it, especially if everything is attractive there to make it sell.
It is, but uh, with fitness, Charles, for the most part, fitness is a passion, but
Mhm.
helping people achieve financial freedom is real goal now.
Mm-hmm.
So you're most likely going to see more of the brand with the deal craft and with business mentorship and helping people purchase businesses. That's what you're going to see out of me more than anything else right now.
Mm-hmm. That's what's up. I appreciate that. So, how do you handle your clients who are struggling to stay motivated?
You got to talk to them about their why. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. A person's why is their reason, and it's not even the reason; it's the emotional reward that they're going to get as a result of taking that action, right? So Becky down the street might want to lose 50 pounds, but
Mm-hmm.
what does she really want? What is she running from? What is she running toward?
Mm-hmm.
All of us have a heaven and hell,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So you look at a motivated person and everyone thinks like you with your goal or me with my goal, you think, oh man, that dude is really motivated toward reaching his heaven. But a lot of people are more motivated from running by running away from their hell. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense? Like
So, are your clients virtual or are they in person?
virtual.
They're virtual.
Hmm.
What trends do you see emerging in the fitness industry, and how do you adapt to them?
I love it because we just talked about it. It's always a flashy new thing, man. It's always
Mhm.
a flashy new thing. What's the new thing nowadays? It's not intermittent fasting was like 3 years ago. It's not even keto or anything like that. Is it vegan? I don't even know what it is. There's always something that someone comes out with, pumps a bunch of money in the marketing. They run like a partial slander campaign to saying this is why this wasn't working. Try my new method, and then that new method, of course, blows up because everybody wants to buy the hot new thing that's going to finally work for them.
Mm.
When in all reality, teaching them how to be consistent, it's the only thing that works.
So, what role does technology play in your management style?
Oh, it just allows me to reach people more efficiently. That's it. Like we talked about CRMs too, which was actually pretty cool.
Mhm.
All CRMs do is allow me to stay more organized.
How do you prioritize tasks and manage your time effectively?
Mm. I learned something really important, and this hopefully this is a nugget for somebody out there. Your brain will always pay attention to what's urgent, not necessarily what's important. Okay, so what that means is it's going to be important for me to do XYZ tasks that I've wrote down and talked to my team about. Those are important tasks.
Mhm.
But if something's off in my home or with my wife or with my kids, that's urgent.
Mhm.
I'm always going to, you're always going to be putting more energy into something that's urgent than important. So it's a mixture of a lot of times from what I've seen, and I've done this as well, people will get frustrated with themselves trying to take action on something important before addressing something that's emotionally urgent. You have to respect the emotional self and what's urgent
Mhm.
before you can get to what's important.
So, can you break that down a little bit more as to go a little bit more in depth and explain the difference between the two?
100%, Charles. I love that, man. So let's say, of course, we have right now we have businesses running. We just closed on a company. We're doing a webinar like next week. We're doing a lot of stuff in our Dealcraft company that's very important things that are high value levers. And if we pull them, they'll have a huge impact on the people around us and what we can produce and bring in revenue. Those are all important things because it's the company kind of hinges on them. But if my daughter gets sick or if something happens to one of my kids, that's urgent. So it's like logical versus emotional. What's logical is I need to get XYZ tasks done. But what's emotional is the people around me and the people that I care about. Does that make sense? So important, I would even say that it's more logical. Urgent is what's affecting me right now and throwing off my immediate emotional state and stopping me from being able to focus.
Mhm.
Does that make more sense?
Yes, and I understand that. And so basically when you get to that point and let's say you lose focus, like with all those things you're doing, how do you actually put yourself back on track? how quick does it take you to get back on track?
I love that, man. That's such a good question. I feel like people are missing that. Okay. Number one is, can I take care of the issue right now of what's urgent? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a question. And you have to be a little bit logical here. And I'd say there's two pieces to it. There's the actual problem, and then there's my emotional response to the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So the actual problem might be like, my daughter had an issue at school today, or something like that. Something that's very emotionally pulling on me, right? And so I have to ask myself the question logically. It's okay, what can I do about it? What impact can I have on it? What actions can I take that will resolve this issue? And then, like, how is my body actually feeling in these moments? So we talked about celebrating ourselves. There's another piece where it's just like mental check-ins with ourselves. If you sat there right now, or if I sat here right now and just took a deep breath to kind of scan my body and just focus on my breathing, am I feeling excited? Am I feeling anxious? Am I feeling worried? What emotional state am I in as a result of the urgent thing that's happening? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if I fix the exterior problem,
mm-hmm.
and then I figure out where I'm at emotionally,
Mm-hmm.
then I can take a deep breath and say, okay, I know where I'm at. I know what I got to do. I fixed the urgency issue. Hopefully, in some of the cases, some people can't fix the urgency issue right away.
Mm-hmm.
But I've done what I can with the urgency issue. Let me mentally, like, logically compartmentalize that, and now let's step into back into the important issues.
Mm-hmm.
But also give yourself, there's got to be a level of grace. I know people worship the grind. People pledge allegiance to the grind, and that's huge, but they don't give themselves grace to be human. So you have to give yourself grace to be human when you're dealing with urgent matters and say, maybe I didn't get all the things I needed done today, but I still took a step forward regardless of circumstance.
Let me ask you this question because I love that answer that you just gave. But let me just ask you this question, and maybe you'll see if maybe your approach may be a little bit off. Do you think that you should think about you and the emotional state first before you do any of the other things?
Potentially. And I like where you're going with that. But sometimes I could, if it's something urgent, but I could fix it with an action. There's
Mhm,
cases where an action is all it takes, and it takes 10, 15 minutes.
mhm,
And when the urgent issue is actually completed, then I can move forward. But there's some cases where you can't take an action that will fix it right then and there.
mhm,
You see what I'm saying? That's where I was going. Okay, logically first, can I fix this issue?
mhm,
And it's like, if I can, great. Now I don't have to worry. Now I don't feel any urgency towards it. It's fixed.
mhm.
And that's why I said I'll go try to fix the issue first, and then I'll go into the emotional state.
Okay. Can you share an example of a successful project you managed from start to finish?
There's a lot. Um, man, I between fitness stuff and helping people with businesses, that's kind of interesting too. Because I guess my part is finished when I've helped the client reach the goal, even though their portion isn't finished. Whether it's fitness, trying to maintain their lifestyle, or they've just created a new business and they're trying to continue to grow revenue without my guidance anymore. Because the goal is never really reached, but I've done my part in it. Um, yeah, I don't have one particular story that comes to mind. Is there?
Well, um, then let's go to what are the biggest challenges you face as a manager and how do you address them?
People? Dude, I heard was it, what book was it? It is the Courage to Be Disliked. It's a book on Adlerian psychology, and they said in that book, every problem is an interpersonal relationship problem, Charles. Every problem. If you were the only person in the world, you wouldn't have any problems.
Mhm.
It's all when dealing with people.
I agree with that. Seriously, I agree with that because you know, with especially with everybody having different personalities, right? So you have to deal with people with from where they are. And so it's like to deal with somebody where they are. And if you're one of these short fused people, you have got to learn a whole lot of discipline and structure to where you want to handle that situation. Because the first thing and the quickest thing that you're going to get from them is they're going to blow the top. And a lot of times when they blow the top, that's what I was saying about, checking your emotional state first. It's because when you blow the top, basically something that could have been so simple has been made like this. And it's like a big old hole in the middle of the earth. And it's like, how did we get there?
I
See,
like that.
so if you lose control, you turn into the Tasmanian devil. You spinning up and you just tearing stuff up. Okay. Now that ain't doing you no good. That ain't doing none of these other people no good. That ain't doing the company no good. That does nobody any good. This is where you have to put on your big boy clothes, your big girl clothes, and you have to sit down and you have to say, look, let me get myself right. There have been several times, it ain't nobody but me, but sometimes I have gotten so, I mean, it's like I could be thinking one thing in my mind, it's like explode. It's like inside my mind, I done took a stick and I done just broke every window around that I've seen. That's all in my mind.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to remain calm and composed as I'm speaking to individuals because it's like when it comes to what you want, people aren't always there. And when you try to simplify it and break it down like a fraction, they feel like you're insulting them. So if they feel like you're insulting them, but you're not, and you're still trying to get past that, and they won't go past it, what do you do? Do you sit there and you fester, or do you continuously try to get them past that? Because it's not going to go anywhere until you pull them past that.
It's true. I'll say this is where I enjoy running my own companies versus working in corporate America. Because if I'm running my own company, I can be 100% real and blunt, but I do like to ask the question. I'll be like, hey, can I be real with you for a second? I'll ask for their permission. I do.
Because you're about to get it.
And if they say yes, then I'll go ahead and let loose. Not angry or anything, but just like it comes down to like we were saying earlier, man. It's like, okay, from your understanding, what is this process that is supposed to be done? Because let me see if there's something that I didn't explain to you or that you don't get or what's going on in your mind so we can meet somewhere in the middle and I can pull you to where you got to go.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Because the comprehension level is not there.
It's not. And it's a question of like, are they operating in their gifts or are they just doing that corporate America thing where they're just trying to fill a role?
That's just the thing. And so you get to learn people when you actually give them a real task. You give them a real task, not the little simple ones where you say, okay, well, you just go and get your little paycheck. You just go and sit over here and you just go and you just do some filing. Or you just do some alphabet you putting things alphabetically together. Or you just gonna count up how many marbles is in this bottle or in this jar. No, we ain't doing that. See, we talking about doing real things in real life. And see, this is the thing that most people, despite if it's a large company or if it's a small company, if you, as a business owner, knowing where you want your company to be and where it's going, the people you hire, yeah, the best representative is always going to show up on the damn interview. Mm-hmm. But you have to go a little bit deeper than that. Because sometimes when you want to learn some things about people, and I know that it's not suggested all the time or not something that is actually qualitative for a lot of people, but have them do some things.
Yeah.
before you actually bring them on. But you want to have them do some detailed things, because if somebody is not, let's say like in your business as a consultant, oh, you need to be detailed, and there's some shit you can't miss. Excuse my French. There's some things you just cannot miss, and if you miss that, you missing this one small little thing could cost me $1 million. Do
Yeah.
you think they think about that? No. They say, I did my job. No, you didn't. You missed this. I'm just saying. You see, especially when you're talking about contracting, because we're getting ready to move into the phase in 25 with government contracting.
Dope.
So there ain't nobody that's gonna actually sit there and say they gonna sit there and they gonna do just this part of something that's dealing with the contract by themselves. That's not gonna happen. No, sir, that's not gonna happen. I'm saying this live. That's not gonna happen. And the reason why it's not gonna happen is because just as meticulous and detailed as they are about awarding those contracts is how I have to be in order to submit that bid.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I do. I
So
do.
that's where I believe all of this is about the interaction with people, because despite how well you may want to explain or put things out, people miss, and they miss because a lot of people are just not detailed. They're just like, okay, well, I got it done.
Dude, Charles, and back in my experience, those are the same people who are complaining about the paycheck and about not being where they want to be in life. And it's like, yo, the reason that dude over there is making more money is because he's taking more responsibility, because he's willing to go in and do the work and grow as a person.
Right,
And you saying they're jealous. And it's
right,
like, yo, it's not how it works.
right. But you see, in larger companies, it works that way because the ones that are privileged to have the jobs they have, they don't do a damn thing. But the folks that are working because they say, I want that job, them the ones they throw all the pressure on. And so when you get to the point where you get sick of that, you say, well, hell, I done built the whole company. You telling me that because I didn't do this person's job that I'm not doing my job? Does that make sense?
I love that, man, because that's where we come in and we're like, yo, buy a cash flowing business and you ain't got to deal with that dude above you who's not doing the work. Dude, that frustration is exactly where my business was born out of. It's why I didn't want to be an electrician anymore. It's why I didn't want to do any more of that stuff. That frustration alone.
Well, you see, that's why entrepreneurship is taking on a whole new look going into 25. And believe me, a lot of those larger companies that are fighting against this, they're fighting against it for that very reason. And that is because if you're so used to kicking people around, mistreating them, not giving a damn, and you everybody's getting a paycheck, but the person that's getting this big chunk of paycheck ain't doing no work. They're not doing no work, but the little man is doing the whole thing that's holding the company up. Does that make sense to you? That's how that function goes. And it's like some people, though, I will say this, and I know a lot of people like this. A lot of people function well in dysfunctionality.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not cluttered, thrown all over the place, and it ain't just crazy and mass chaos, and ain't got no drama going on, a lot of people can't function. But when all that's going on, the people that don't work a lot, them the ones that function well because they love that type. Oh, yeah, that new drama, and that new drama is loud. Everybody know what's going on. See, like everybody trying to find out about no crazies like that, but that's just how that works. And see, the thing is, as we're building small businesses, and especially like the one that you're building, it's like you want to make sure that when it comes down to being detail oriented, you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to do that because the more you dig into the details, you get it right, and your people get it right. Don't care if you have to do what they do to the Marines. You have to brainwash them, make them sit there and make them watch that screen over and over again until they get it. They'll get it. But it's a long process, but just saying. Because if it don't work, and you knowing that, as a small business, you ain't got but one shot.
Yeah.
Every now and then you may get two, but you ain't got but one shot. So if you got one shot, you better make sure your shot that you shoot is going to hit. We
That's true.
gotta make sure of that. Gotta make sure of that. Because if it don't, then it's like, okay, well, I gotta wait for the next one.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lord knows when it's coming. Yeah. Unless you create it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So that's about how you just evolve all the way around that whole circle. You put your whole world like a globe, sit it right there in the middle of your space. When people first come in, they see that globe and they say, "What does that mean?" That's symbolism. I am a world organization. All of that is me. All of that is us. That's what we do. Everything that you see in that world, in that globe. That's the mentality.
I like that.
Yes, you got to be international, not national, because national is not doing it anymore.
Yeah, that's true. That's a whole nother topic right there.
Yes, sir, it is. So, what are the most common issues you see businesses facing today?
Oh man. No one knows how to market. Small business wise. No
Mhm.
one knows how to market. People don't understand it. They think that it's just throwing up a Facebook page, getting your Google business going, yada yada, paying for some ads. They don't really understand it.
Well, I mean, you see, do you think that's one of those things where, again, people have to look at and see what fits? Because, marketing, yeah, we have to do marketing, but when you're like small, sometimes, maybe the smaller ads and the shorter time frames just help to build and to establish. Because if you're not ready yet, you can't go and do what they do at Procter and Gamble. You can't do what they do because what they doing is that because they're international. So they throwing out ads all over the place, and they got ads going up all over the TV, on the internet, everything else at the same time. And it's like every second there's one over here, they over there, they everywhere. You can't do that when you're small. So when you're small, you got to actually pick a real target audience, and you got to know how to dig down and delve into that. So how do you delve into that?
I mean, everybody should know their avatar. You know your avatar too, Charles?
Well, actually, I don't have an avatar.
You don't have an avatar? Okay, got you.
I don't have an avatar. But what I do is now I have gotten to the point where the strategies that's being used, like I say, is really pretty organic. But now it's time to expand that because now we've pretty much kind of like uh, got the idea and know where to hit and how to hit our audience. And so, in hitting our audience is why we're growing. And so, now that we have hit the audience the way we have, and we're gaining and gaining and gaining, now it's time to get ready to really do an actual real commercial ad.
Okay.
You see, but you have to build to that though. See, that's what most small businesses don't understand.
Well,
You can't just go out and just do that.
I like what you said because like you said, you have to build to the point where you can do something larger.
Right.
Um, a lot of small businesses, the businesses that I've worked with, they don't understand who they serve or how they serve them, right?
Well,
Because
that's
even though you don't have an avatar, just from the title of your show, America in Black and White, it tells you who it's aimed at,
exactly
right? It puts an image in the mind of whoever's watching it.
right.
Some people don't even have that much. you know, what
Well,
I mean?
that's true because a lot of people don't know how to think outside the box.
Mm, very true. Very true.
So, it's there and it's right there in your face. America in black and white. We are all here. We're all living it. We're all seeing it. We're all being it. So, it's relevant. Everything's relevant.
Hmm. I like
So,
it.
so as you have your opportunity, please come into the fold. As you come into the fold, it's never going to close all the way. It's going to like get to that point, then it's going to open back again. And when it opens back, that means you are now a part of it. The doors do that for everybody. For everybody.
I like that.
So it's all good. So yeah, we'll actually it's time for us to well, let me just have you this. Can you tell give our audience something that they should know about some of the things you do, how you're hitting your planning to to expand around the globe, all those good things that you're doing, and what you're doing and how you're doing it, and where they can learn to do it.
Yeah. I mentioned a little bit before, but my latest business venture is to reach those people who, like we talked about, are just frustrated with corporate America, frustrated working the 9 to 5, and they have the skill set, they have the drive, they have the people that they care for, that they need to provide for, and they're just not getting what they need. And so they want to open up a buy a cash flowing business. Apologies. So my whole obsession is going to be finding these people and then bringing them to a place, which we have a little school community right now that I launched last week. And school is just a platform kind of like Facebook that we're using. And it's just 100% free to get people together to start building up that community of like-minded individuals and find their private money lenders, find good deals, find whatever they need to get to that next level. That's it.
Yeah. So do you recommend for most of them that especially those that feel like they have to do business loans and things of that nature, where do you suggest they look to get a business loan, or do you think most people should even think about applying for a business loan?
Depends on where they're at financially. That's a great question. Some people, like we were talking about, who are in corporate America spaces, have decent credit and have the history to do something like that. In which case, SBA is a great choice, only 10% down, not bad at all. But there's a million other options, whether it's like static credit stacking, or looking into more creative deals, or even using like short-term loans that are a little bit more aggressive, that the SBA are willing to pretty much refinance you out of, if you would. Like, there's a lot of options to get into the space. But it's not really the how that matters. It's more so the drive and putting yourself in an environment where you have the tools to do something like that. And that's what we're trying to create.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you again for spending some time with us, letting us into your world, into the things that you're doing, and we wish you much, much, much success. Also, the door is always open for a second invitation. If you decide you'd like to come back on the show, we definitely would like to have you back. And for those of you that are out watching on the YouTube channel, I would ask that you please hit the subscription button and the notification button, which is the little bell, which is right beneath. Because every time we do a show, you will get a notification letting you know that the show is about to go live. And all you have to do is just click the little link there inside the channel, and you will watch the show live. For those of you that are watching on any of the other platforms that we have, I will recommend to you as well, please hit the subscription and notifications button, because we definitely would love to have your feedback as to how we grow as we continue to grow. And we can take some of the ideas that you guys want to have about the show, and we can see if we can work those out. So you all have a wonderful evening, and we will see you tomorrow for another great show here on America